Hi, my name is Katya. Here I talk about how to maintain work-life balance even if you work in a creative field, so welcome. And if reading is as a huge part of your work-life balance as mine is, then I hope you'll enjoy today's video because I want to share with you all the books I've read this year and talk about them without spoilers. But before we start, I guess I need to tell you some of my book preferences so you know that this video is interesting for you and you may find some good recommendations that will actually suit you. And the first thing I need to tell you that I do not read productive business or motivational books. First of all, I don't like them. And second of all, I don't believe that there is a point in them. So I just don't read them. So this video is productivity books free. And the next thing you need to know about me is that I'm a real old school lady. I just enjoy classic literature and especially I love to read novels. So I'm a classic novel type of girl. I do not read poetry. But this year I made up a challenge for myself, and the challenge was to discover a modern literature. In this video you will find some modern recommendations as well. Also, for the purposes of this video, I would like to show you my books not in the order I've actually read them, but from the most classical ones, from the oldest to the most modern ones. So now I think I've said everything I wanted and we're good to go. The book is called Marie Antoinette. It is by Stefan Zweig, an Austrian author, and I was honestly pleasantly surprised by him because I never really read anything from him, and I guess he's kind of underrated. I think we should promote him more, so I'm starting with this video. In the first place, it's a historical novel about life and death of the Queen of France, Marie Antoinette, but if you think that it is something boring and full of boring historical dates and facts, then you are wrong. It is the most captivating book. While reading, you actually forget that it is about real historical characters and events. You really take it as a fiction. I've read it like in probably 1 week, but of course, as it is based on real historical documents and letters that Marie Antoinette wrote herself, this book has a huge educational value to it, I guess. So if you love history, it is going to be 10 out of 10 for you, as it was for me. But even if you don't love history, I think that this book will catch your eye. There is a catch though, and this book is a psychological take on this very popular and well-known woman, historical character. Author allows himself to kind of change a timeline, or he chooses what to say about her life. So it's not probably that accurate. I guess that's because Zweig really has his own opinion on this woman and all the circumstances she was in. So he tells us stories through his perception. He looks at this historical character as a real-life woman and tries to discover her inner beliefs and inner motivations, why she was like that. He also writes about popular myths about Marie Antoinette, like for example that she said that people that are hungry should eat cake if they don't have bread. He also writes about it, and he really tries to whiten her, or he really just tries to understand her. So I really liked it about it, and as I said, it was 10 out of 10 for me. The next book is called The Sorrows of Satan, and it is by Maria Corelli. I unfortunately do not have the physical form of the book with me right now because I lended it to my friend, but it can show you that I truly recommend it. This book stayed with me for several months, and I truly think that it is worth your reading. The book was written at the end of the 19th century, so it is a pretty classical English novel, and the genre is horror. Honestly, the name of the book kind of spoils the whole plot and the whole point of the book, which is funny, but I guess it doesn't change the fact that it is a good book. So the story is about a poor writer who is called Geoffrey Tempest, who has no money at all and who is starving, but still tries to work on his books, continues writing, and at some point, which is the lowest point of his life, when he really doesn't know if he will eat tomorrow, he meets this mystery friend, which we know who is because of the name of the book, but our main character doesn't know it, so he believes him and they become great friends. This mystery friend offers our poor writer a huge help, and of course Jeffrey Tempest gladly accepts this offer and his life changes completely. He becomes super wealthy, super successful, everything that he has dreamt of just comes to him without no hard work. Of course, I don't want to spoil it to you, so you'll have to read it to know how it ends. But before I'll move to the next book, I want to mention that I love how the novel questions fame and money in the life of an artist. I think there are some very strong takes on how artist should live or how he should set his priorities. I guess that every writer or creative person can find himself in some of the lines of the book, because sometimes when you struggle and you don't know what to write or what to create, and also you have all those, life problems and how to fight through it and how not to lose your soul in some way. Needless to say that this book has its mystical or religious vibe, let's say, so it's up to you to believe it or not, but for me it was really strong and I was like really horrified at some parts of the book, but again, I'm a very sensible person and I really believe everything I read. So an interesting thing that while reading I was constantly thinking about this artwork. I feel like this artwork is equivalent to this novel. I don't know, they just have the same vibe, and as this mystical mood and this theme overall is really interesting to me and I enjoy it a lot, I would rate this book overall 8 out of 10. The next book, which is also the last one in this category of classical books I'm talking about today, is The Haunted Hotel by Wilkie Collins. It is a real small novel, like really small one. I really enjoyed it, but it is nothing special. I kind of read it because I did not want to start something big, something serious, so it is also a very classical end of the 19th century novel, kind of a start of this detective era. No deep meaning in it, it's just a little detective, but it's not really detective, it's just something between detective and just some novel. I don't know. I guess you'll really enjoy it if you love classical English novels, but at the same time you don't want some deep meanings and you just want to relax while reading. Again, it has some mystical vibe to it. So it's all about finding out who killed who, and I don't know, 2 out of 10, but again, I don't actually expect much of this type of literature, but those were pleasant 3 days after work. So, as I said, if you want to relax, this could be your perfect choice, but keep in mind that in modern days we're so spoiled with plot twists and super interesting series on Netflix or HBO Max that you kind of know how it will end. So, as I said, 2 out of 10. Unlike the previous book, the next one is so meaningful and it is so deep and it just stays in my heart. I just know for sure that I am going to read it so many times again. Just a beautiful, beautiful book that is called The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I believe many people know that book, but for me it was something new, something I've never read. I got the inspiration to read that book when I rewatched my favorite film 10 Things I Hate About You this fall, and I saw that the main character was reading this book and I was like, honestly, I expected nothing from this book. I didn't read some reviews, I just opened the book and started reading. Oh boy, and I'm so glad I did. Also, important thing that I read this book in English, which is something new for me this year, that I tried to read in English finally. So also the comment for people who don't have English as their native language. If you understand this video, I think you will understand this book without the translator, which is great, and you really got to hear the author speaking without translator. That is absolutely amazing. The huge disclaimer though, if you struggle with depression, or maybe you have a hard time right now, you live through some difficult times, please do not read that book. It is difficult to read. It is all about depression, and it puts you in such a weird state of mind that I would say you are not feeling the happiest one while reading. This book is about a young woman that is working as an intern in New York. She has a lot of new possibilities, opportunities. She has perfect grades in university. She also has ambitious boyfriend, and everyone would think that she's living her best life, but unfortunately she struggles with depression. And as readers, we got to live through her depressive days, and everything is written in such honest way. And above all, if you learn a little bit about the beautiful author of this book, Sylvia Plath, you see that this novel is semi-biographical, and it tears your heart even more. I'm not going to be talking about plot anymore, again, because I don't want to spoil you anything, but I love how this book is so progressive about depression. It also questions the role of the woman, and unfortunately when you read it, you can really find yourself in it as a young woman. I believe it just shows that as a society we has not moved much forward since the 50s, the time when the book was published and written. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about this book, and I believe that this work deserves a whole new video. If you heard about it but haven't read it, if you're a young woman, then read it. I guess you'll find yourself in it. It also questions like choosing the right path in life when you're young, you know, like choosing something you want to do, and you have so many options and so many opportunities, but how to know which one is the best and how to know which one is right for you. Highly recommend, 10 out of 10. It's brilliant, I love it, and I just know that I will reread it. It inspired me in so many ways. I don't know, I just love it. So I guess it's my #1 book of the year. So The Bell Jar. Moving on to the next book, which is Fight Club. Again, I lended it to my friend, so I don't have it with me today. I talked about it in my previous video. It really affected me in so many ways, but I think this is the only book I know that was actually worse than the film, than the equalization. So I don't really recommend you reading it. Like, watch the film. It is really better. As I said, I never read modern literature, so I really enjoyed this sharp and quick way author uses to describe the plot, to write the plot. It is about a man who struggles to find his place in the modern world, doesn't even have a name, and I guess it's a beautiful way how author chooses to show how lost he really is. The book mentions and questions, again, consumption, and what was especially interesting for me, that the book also talks about, toxic masculinity, and shows it is a way out of depression in some way. It was really interesting for me to understand it, as I am a woman and I don't know what is going inside of a man's head, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed looking at this other perspective and this man's perspective. It was really interesting, even though it was all about masculinity and men and consumption. There was a little tiny nice touch, and this touch was the theme of love and how maybe the love is the answer. So for me, this is the book of contrasts, and I would really recommend it. Maybe not 10 out of 10, also because I've seen the film and I really love the film, but I guess 7 out of 10. It's getting darker, you guys. I'm losing my light. I don't see sun anymore. I guess I have to speed up, and I guess the quality of the video is going to be worse, for which I'm really sorry, but I'm filming on my old phone. But let's move to the next book, and this book is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Hunger Games fan here. The Hunger Games trilogy was the trilogy that kind of got me into reading, so it has a special place in my heart. Again, this book I've read after the film, so I kind of compared it the whole time. It kind of spoiled my first impression of the book, but still, I guess it's a good one. Also, it is special for me because it was the first book ever I've read in English language. I was so proud of myself, and again, for the people who learn English and try to get into reading in English, this is the best book possible. It is really, I don't want to say that it is easy or it is somehow lazy writing, but it is really understandable. This book is about Jan Cornelius Snow, so it is a prequel to the main trilogy. I guess the person who would grab this book in a bookshop and started reading it would be really confused about this whole dystopian world, would be most certainly confused by districts and capital and this war and this everything. So I would not recommend it to the person who doesn't know anything about it, and people who know everything about it would read that book. I personally loved it. I loved it more than the film. I loved the plot, I loved the characters. I was kind of sad that the film described Lucy in the worst light or in a bad light, when book gave me better understanding of her character. So if you didn't like the movie, you might want to read the book and see it from different perspective. This book is basically about getting into the villain's head, living through his experience and understanding why he's the way he is. At the start of the book, I was really on the Snow side. I was like, yeah, he's so ambitious, young, kind man, young man. Yes, I rooted for him. But at the end of the book, I was disgusted with his deeds, with his betrayals, lies, and so for me, this book is about the impossibility to excuse bad deeds and the importance of being a kind person. I got into the villain's head, but I did not like it there. So a great book for the fans of the Hunger Games. Overall, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. And for the end, I saved the last two books. Both of them are modern books, which is something unusual for me. But as I said, I had a challenge to start reading modern literature and discover it for myself. I would say that those books are really similar in some way. First of all, most of them are suitable for B2 level of English. Both of them were really easy to read. I enjoyed them. Both of them are really sharp, again, very quick. Style of writing, but I guess that is something every modern book has, because like we don't have time for reading, we all want something quick, we are used to the quick tempo of reading. That's why I would say that those books are really similar in this way, but again, each of them has something unique to itself, and I would start with this book that is called My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Manchvek. I hope I'm reading it right. I loved it, first of all. This book is about a young girl that has everything, again, that is really privileged, that is living her rich life in New York City, like really rich, you know, rich. I can really relate to that, but I still liked it. This girl suffers from a depression and a grief. For me, if depression was a book, it would be this book. Again, so difficult to read it if you are going through hard times, the same way as Bell Jar. I would say it is really hard for sensible people. When I read it, I fell into that depressive unpleasant state of mind when you don't want to do anything and you want just to lay in your bed and rest and relax, which the main character does the whole book. So the plot is about the young woman who decided to sleep all year. Because she has wealth and she's really privileged, she can afford herself not to do anything the whole year, so she uses to sleep the whole year. And we read all those tiny parts of her life in between sleeping. She remembers her childhood, she communicates with her friend, which is kind of toxic friend, or I would say they both have toxic relationship, toxic friendship. The whole book you feel this lazy, or not lazy, but this depressive, tired, grieving state of hers. You also want to sleep all day. Really interesting, not so inspiring, but I guess it is worth your attention. I love how this book shows us that no matter where you stand in a society, you still can have mental health issues. And that's why I love this book. I would say it's like 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. It is worth your reading. And the last book for this video is I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. Again, I'm reading this right, but I hope I do. This book has very non-classical structure. It doesn't have normal chapters as we are used to, but instead of it, it has those quick and sharp pieces of text. And you can read this book like in 2 days, honestly. I guess that's the way how the author battles with social media to keep her book interesting and engaging even in the time of social media, when majority of people would prefer scrolling on the Instagram or on TikTok instead of reading a book. So I love it about it. Because of its structure, we can't talk about some consistent plot line. It is very different every time. This book is about second-generation immigrant in the United Kingdom, which is a young woman who struggles with unhealthy relationship, I would say abusive romantic relationship with a man to whom she refers like the man I want to be with. And at the same time, she has obsession issues in a way, because she's obsessed with a very popular influencer on Instagram, with the woman who is also connected to the man she wants to be with. And to that woman she refers like the woman I'm obsessed with. So the whole plot line is about the main character struggling with those two other characters, with that woman she's obsessed with and the man she wants to be with, and how she tries to cope with it. And again, how she tries to cope with comparison, because she always following that influencer. She's obsessed with her. I believe this book was published in 2023 or 22, so it's really modern and you can find yourself in it. You understand what it is like to scroll and to be obsessed and to compare yourself to those on Instagram or to those huge and rich influencers. The thing I did not like was probably the theme of abusive relationship. I guess that's because I thankfully do not have them in my life. I guess for girls who have those troubles in their life, it would be really interesting to read it, you know, to find out that someone on this earth also struggles with it and you are not alone. And I guess that's the main purpose of art, to discover other people and to discover that we're not alone. Also, this book has some powerful lines and parts about racism and feminism. And also I love that the main character is also a writer and you got to read her thoughts on her life and what does she want to achieve. Some lines I've read and I was like, oh my god, those are my thoughts. Crazy how we are all living through the same experience and how we all have same thoughts sometimes. I would say 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Very interesting. For the person who does not read modern books, a must-have, I would say. So that was it for today. I thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you found something interesting for yourself to read. Also, if you have read some of those books, please write in the comments which one, what do you think of them, let's discuss it. I wish you all a very, very happy new year. Please spend some quality time with your families and friends and enjoy the holidays. I'm so thankful for you staying around here, even though I'm not as active as I was in summer, but I hope I'll see you soon. Goodbye.